All right, so we're going to talk about this worksheet number 3 real quick from yesterday's lesson. We're moving on to 2.1b today. But the elements that we learned yesterday of negative exponents and zero exponents, they're going to pop up throughout this whole unit. So let's not forget how to solve negative exponents before we actually have to really use them, right? So number 1, we've got 5 to the power of negative 2. Again, our first step is to flip the numerator and the denominator, but because we don't have a denominator here, we're just going to rewrite it as 5 over 1 to the power of negative 2. Now that we have a fraction, we can flip. We got a question over there in group 7? Oh, okay. We're going to flip them, so 1 over 5 to the positive 2. So once we flip our numerator and our denominator, just as a reminder, that's when we make our exponent positive. Okay, and you can leave your answer as 1 over 5 squared, or you can go a step further and solve it to get 1 over 25. All right? Any questions on that? Yes, Jocelyn. Yes, like I said, this answer for right now is perfectly fine. Once we move on, I'll let you know what I expect your answer to look like, but this right here tells me that you know how to flip and make it positive, and that's all I'm looking for. Okay? I assume that you know what 5 times 5 is, but that's fine, yeah. So 3 to the negative 4, just like 5 to the negative 2, we can kind of just follow the same pattern, right? We just put 1 over what we had and made our exponent positive. 1 over what we had with a positive exponent. There's not even really much work to write out for this type of problem, right? 3 to the 4th, anyone got what that's equal to? 181. Close, just 81. Did you say 181? Or you said 81? Oh, good job. 81. That's correct. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 27 times 3, 81. All right, 3, we got 8 to the negative 1. We're just going to flip that, put 1 over 8 to the positive 1, and we don't even need to write our exponent of 1, do we? We can just write 1/8. Everyone should have the same answer for this one. If you put 1 over 8 to the 1, that's fine too, but just know you don't really ever have to write 1 as an exponent. Now I had some questions about number 4 because our base here, our 4, is negative. Is that going to change what we do? No, it is not. If we have negative 4 over 1 to the negative 3rd power, we're going to flip them just like normal. Negative 4 to the positive 3 under 1. So we flipped them and made the exponent positive. And then negative 4 times negative 4 would be positive 16. Times negative 4 again gives us negative 64, right? Oops. Can't even see it. Now, you can write 1 over negative 64. You could write negative 1 over 64. You could write the whole fraction as negative like this. Stop doing that. If you have little scraps of paper, throw them away, please, right now. So either way, either of these 3 answers is correct. They're all the same thing. It doesn't really matter where the negative sign is. We usually don't write it in the denominator. I would suggest just writing it out in front like this, but it's the same either way. Number 5, basically the same deal. Negative 3 over negative 3 to the negative 1 turns into 1 over negative 3. Again, if we have negative 3 to the negative 1 over 1, and we flip them and make our exponent positive, that's all we need. You got a question, Jordan? No? Oh, okay. Just making sure. What's our answer to number 6? 7 to the power of 0 is 1 every single time. Whenever there's a 0 power, it's always 1. Which means that number 7, even if we have a negative 45, our answer is still just going to be 1, not negative 1. Yes? Sure. So our answer is not going to be negative 1 here. It's going to be positive 1. Now if we have a variable n to the negative 4, again, we can write this as n over 1 to the negative 4. Then flip them and make our exponent positive. Same process every time. Flip them, make the exponent positive. And then solve it if you can. But here we can. Now 9 and 10 is where it gets tricky. If you remember, this exponent is only attached to the variable. There's no parentheses. We can't distribute it. It's only attached to n, right? So we can even think of this as like 6 times n to the negative 2 over 1, just so we can separate our coefficient out to make the whole flipping thing a little bit easier. Flip these around and we get 6 times 1 over n to the positive 2. And 6 is just like 6 over 1, right? So if we multiply across, we get 6 over n squared. So remember, take a look at number 8. What's our coefficient of n in number 8?
Negative 4.
That's our exponent. What's our coefficient? The number in front. 1, right? When you don't see a number, the coefficient's 1. What was our final numerator for this answer? 1. What's our coefficient in number 9? 6. The 6 in front. And what was our numerator in the answer? 6. Okay, so your coefficient becomes your numerator, and then your variable gets flipped down to the bottom. Which means our answer for number 10 would be 8 over x to the 4th. Once you know that pattern and can recognize it, it makes these problems go by really quick. You don't have to overthink, oh, what do I do with that 8 again? What do I do with the 6? If it's in front of the variable, it becomes your numerator. Okay? Fractions down here, 1/2 to the negative 1. If we just flip these around, we get 2 over 1 to the positive 1. What's that equal to if we simplify it all the way? Just 2, right? I heard someone whisper it. 2. And here we've got 1/3 to the negative 2. Again, the negative 2 is outside the parentheses, so we have to make sure both our numbers get it. 3 over 1 to the positive 2. Then we'll distribute that 2. So we get 3 squared over 1 squared. That's equal to 9 over 1, which is just 9. Questions on this, worksheet number 3. Keep in mind, I'm not grading homework based on how correct your answers are. That's up to you to do right now. I'm not going to go through your homework assignments and be like, oh, number 4, you should have done this. That's why I come around and check with some of you guys when you're working on it in class. The homework, you should be checking yourself so that you're prepared for the test. Because once we get to the test, if you were able to kind of copy your friends' worksheets here and there, you're not going to know what you're doing on the test. Okay? So just keep that in mind.